This is the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17, verse 11 to 19. Jesus heals 10 men with leprosy. Now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus travelled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." When he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Rise and go, your faith has made you well." That's the end of the verse. I'm Sandy. I'm a member here at St Georges Tron. I love being here. Every Thursday I meet with a group of men at the men's table, as they call it, and we fire out or deal with everyday questions that each of us might struggle with. And we use the Bible actually to track our lives or how we feel about our lives, and we take some advice from that, and we investigate the scriptures, and we find it highly beneficial. This is a long way from how I used to look at the Bible, a very long way indeed. I saw it as a book, and I struggled with understanding it. I just couldn't get it at all. But today, this is a very different experience for me. I came to faith many years ago in a prison. Prior to that, I worked in a very male-dominated society all over the world. I never really worked in the UK. Most of my life was spent in the Far East, the Middle East, all over the world, in the Great Lakes, everywhere. So when I did rest from that, I found that I felt that life had just been getting away from me. And I couldn't really relate to people at home. I had nothing really I could get in common that we could discuss. So I found that quite difficult. I was quite a heavy drinker, and that kind of took a grip. And more, life became much more difficult, more confusing, and of course mentally, that was tough. It came to a head at the end of the day. I ended up in prison, doing a very hefty sentence, and so it was there really that I was challenged. This heavy charge that was on me at the beginning of going to prison. I remember the old cells in the High Street in Edinburgh. It was down there, that was the first time they'd ever opened these old cells. They were out of commission. And so I was there for 7 days down in the lower part of which was the Sheriff Court. Now it was the High Court at one time. And so in there, I never slept for about 3 days. My mind just couldn't stop, couldn't sit still. My skin was crawling. I remember this terrible thing. I was disgusted with crime. I was disgusted with the way my life had gone. And so my skin just kept crawling. And I felt this feeling that come over me. And for that whole of that 3 days, I felt as though I was being stabbed all over. And what actually happened, the first thing I thought was, what are people going to say? What are people going to think about this? What the heck am I going to do? And so, but then came the thought, to begin with it's rather selfish, because it's all about you, what's going to happen, and what is going to happen. You just cannot imagine it at that time. You can't even think of it. Then came the thought, what will God think of this? And it was then. Everything else just petered off. Everything else just fell away. I went on my knees and I prayed to God, asking for his help and asking for his forgiveness. And on my knees there, I was on the floor, the slabbed floors, a very dimly lit cell. I hadn't seen anyone for about 4 days. Nobody had come to the door except a guy to put food in. Forget it. There was nobody I could really speak with, nor could I say anything to them. I just hadn't got the thought for it. But when I went on my knees and asked for help, that's when I went over on my side. I didn't even try to rest. I just keeled over on my side. I went to sleep. And I woke up in the morning completely refreshed. I couldn't understand. I could not get or understand how that trauma had all fallen away. My mind was at ease, my whole body had rested, and I felt good. And that's when I started thinking about my faith. And so my life began to change. My thought life began to change. And then I began to care about the men around me, because what I was hearing at night was men were crying, men were screaming. Other men were shouting at one another, different things. But I mean, there were a lot of very personal things that men expressed in the middle of the night and the early hours of the morning. And I thought to myself, well, how do you get peace from this? And so what actually happened, with my faith, I became a listener. I was asked if I would become a listener, and so I did. And to become a listener at the beginning of that prison life is hard work, because nobody trusts you. You do get slagged off. But there was something else that was happening, that really never bothered me at all. It really didn't matter. There was a time in prison when they used to say to me, "Sandy, you don't look like a prisoner." "Oh, really? What do I look like?" I said, "I don't know, but you don't look like a prisoner. You don't even speak like a prisoner." "All right, don't speak like a prisoner." Okay. Which was true, I didn't really. What really mattered is that I walked a straight line. And I began to get a strong presence of mind, sense of place and purpose. And there, the drive, I felt the drive. I was assisted. Through absolutely everything I did, I was assisted. I felt assisted. I firmly believe that my whole life has changed and that I have been healed from inside my heart and in my mind. And I have no question about that, and that continues to go on. There's a development taking place that I'm not in charge of, but I wonderfully love and accept. There's a difference now. I'm quite fearless, and I care. I do care. And that's what I love about my life, the change has come about in my life. To be a witness to change in other men, and for them to see and witness the change in me. And that's a huge thing. I find that for men coming to faith, one of the most difficult things they have is to trust God, trust Him implicitly. The seed of a great miracle is impossibility. And so you have to think in these terms, just give Him everything. Sometimes we might do too much for ourselves, and we end up getting overrun, and people are looking for credits. I think it's a wiser thing to do, to continue in your life, not looking for the credit, but giving the credit to God. One of the things I'm very aware of is the verse that I read, the lepers. There were 10 lepers healed. Only one of them came back. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked Him. That's gratitude for you. I do feel that the greatest inhibitor to gratitude is entitlement. A lot of people feel that we're entitled to this, that, and the next thing. One of the wonderful things is to feel that you're not, to know that you're not entitled, but just accept the wonders that we're given. And so I felt like that man who'd come back to Christ. And I feel like this every day, I would say. There's a moment in every day where I want to throw myself down at his feet and give thanks to him. There's just not enough ways to say thank you, because I wouldn't have managed to live. I would never have managed to live had I not given up the past, had I not given it up completely. I would be indeed underground right now. I thank him every morning. I give him the day. Before I even start anything, he gets the day. I have to give it to him. And there's a satisfaction in that, and there is a confidence. I have confidence in him. I'm a very fortunate man indeed. I would say greatly loved and highly favoured, I would put it that way. And I would love to share, and I do try to share that with other people. And if I can give us all of it away, because there's where I get it from, there's plenty, you know. There's no lack of love and grace. And so I'm a result of God's work. And today, I'm able to come with men here at St Georges Tron, come together with these men, who have, some of them have experienced the same life that I had in prison. But we come together, and what it's about assisting others, assisting each other, supporting each other, and using the Bible, and standing on God's promises and his declarations. And when we do that, we do get those results in our lives. Many of us are really grateful. In fact, I think the best day of our week is that Thursday when we manage to come together. And we all talk about the week, but I mean, it's this day, the Thursday, that really makes the difference to each one of us. You know, the changes in these men are vast. And so I get help from them, and we help one another. It's a very simple exchange, but it's God that does it. It's God that's at the top of it all.